Hello, I'm Mark, and this is James, and welcome to Mark's Miniature Monday. And this is a weekly get-together where me and James get to talk about everything that I've been working on, Wargames Illustrated. But today I'm talking about things which I actually had a chance to work on prior to being here.
Yes.
And this is everything I painted in my entire professional career as a miniature painter.
It's an impressive amount of work.
It's an impressive amount, which is 5 miniatures. It's all I've ever produced.
So, yes, you've brought these along.
Yeah.
This is some of your old project work, but it isn't everything you've done. We're being a liar.
Yeah, this is not everything that I've produced. This is a few items which I'm quite happy with what I've produced. There are some of the few which I've actually retained, because obviously a lot of my work was for commission pieces.
Yeah.
So sadly I no longer own them. They're off other parts of the world, hopefully being enjoyed and fighting across tabletops or in display cases. Yeah. And so these are a few items which I've managed to rescue and keep for myself.
Yeah, so I'll ask you some questions about them.
Cool. So this one is quite an old Games Workshop piece now. It's a Frodo from, I believe it was the Lord of the Rings original box set. It's a plastic miniature. And so it's 15 years old now, I'm guessing, the mini?
They're quite old, aren't they? There's been about 15 different Frodos through all the different box sets, 50. So it's hard to know exactly, but it's always good when a base is as tall as the miniature itself.
Yeah, if not taller.
Well, then you've got the plinth as well.
Yeah. No, this was a really great miniature to work on. The scale is obviously a challenge. The features of it were particularly daunting for anyone. It doesn't matter how good your eyesight is when it comes to painting something where the face is only 2-3 millimeters tall. You're going to find that a challenge. But I really enjoyed working on this piece. I tried a few different things at the time, such as texturizing the wall so that you can see the weave on there. And one of the really fun parts of this one was the base. Most of this is milliput.
Oh, you made it?
I made this base.
Right.
There's a few, but if I recall, the top part is made from slate, but the rest of it is milliput. And it gave me that kind of freedom to just explore and craft it in a way which I wanted, which obviously using real stone you don't get to do. You're kind of limited by that. And it also meant that I could sculpt it so that it kind of creeps down the actual plinth.
So what's the sort of setting for this? Obviously, there's a Mount Doom vibe with the fire kind of business.
So this one wasn't the Mount Doom. This one was the Mines of Moria. So
that's why the glow.
So that's why the glow, and that's.
It's so light.
Yes, made by the elves, you know. The blade glows blue when orcs are close. And it's times like that, my lad, when you have to be extra careful.
And then kind of the glow effect. So you've got the contrasting glow effects here. So you've got on the sword with the blue, with the cold, and then you've got the one from beneath. And that was something, it was one of the first times that I really played with an OSL effect. And so I really enjoyed working on that piece. It was really fun to practice on the OSL effect and the different textures. So if you can even see on there, on the cloak, I put a bit of texturizing on there as well. So that was the first time that I tried with making materials, a lot like materials, as opposed to just a smooth highlight or a smooth blend.
Sure.
I really enjoyed doing that.
This is quite an important miniature in your painting development.
It was quite an important miniature.
What next then?
Shall we go with not Captain Tom, but the other captain whose name I can't recall.
This one?
So this one.
Oh, right. I thought that was your not Captain
Tom. That is official Captain Tom.
Captain Hook.
Captain Hook. Sci-fi Captain Hook. And so I would kind of hope that you can see the development of my painting from the original miniature. I personally feel there's more contrast on this one. The paints are more effectively, they work together in a more effective way. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing this one. Again, you can see the texturing of the materials as well to make it look as if, again, they're not just a smooth, bland surface. They are effectively trying to convey that it is a real material. So red's a difficult colour to paint if you've ever painted red. It's a challenge.
You've taken an interesting approach with it. Like if you see the far starker, brighter highlights on the top with more orange, and then they kind of get a bit more muted at the bottom. Was that just how it evolved, or was that calculated?
So that one stemmed primarily from initially when I started working up with an airbrush, and when I got the zenithal highlights, and when I built that up with a few airbrush layers. So that kind of, it picked that up naturally.
Right.
And I just kind of went with that.
Yeah.
I then when I came to attack it with my bristle brush, I just kept developing what the airbrush had actually picked out. So it happened naturally.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
You
it's something I accentuated it. Yeah. And I really enjoyed playing with that, and I did it through the entire miniature as well. Ultimately, so the hat itself is lighter than the bottom components as well. And I was really pleased with how ultimately the finished miniature worked out.
It's a really interesting model as well. Do you remember what it is?
I remember the range where it came from. So it's a 3D printed miniature from a small company called Print Minis, who I did quite a lot of work with prior to coming here. And yeah, they do some fantastic miniatures. You can see the detail on there is really quite good.
It is, yeah.
And the scales, I think it's probably even bigger than a 32mm. It's probably like 35 almost. Yeah. It's a good scale. It's
or
a nice,
tall 32mm.
It's a tall
figure.
32, yeah. It's a really enjoyable scale to work on because it gives you that scope to do a bit more detail than you would on a 28 doing an accurate scale. So yeah, really enjoyed working on this one.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay, what next?
Let's go with Captain Tom.
Okay, the Captain
The
Tom.
Captain Tom, the actual Captain Tom.
Oh no, a leaf just fell off Captain Tom's face.
I might have to repair that one. So this is the Captain Tom. It's a Warlord Games miniature, and it was released a year or so back now, I believe. And the proceeds of the sale from Warlord went to, I believe, to a charity. And when I saw it, I had to purchase it immediately. I thought it was a great mini, from in his prime. During the world, well, I suppose you could say his prime when he was 100. I suppose
he did pretty well.
Yeah, he had a good prime. Yeah, extended for quite a period of time, and yeah, it's a really cool miniature to work on. There is a chip on his shoulder, which I'm quite disappointed. I don't quite know how that one's happened. But
is that since it's come into the office?
I think it is since it's come into the office. So someone has potentially. Should we blame Dan?
Yeah, let's blame Dan.
Let's blame Dan. Yeah. We're going to blame
Dan.
Dan clearly manhandled him and gave him a bit of abuse. It was a really cool miniature paint. It's quite a simple miniature.
Yeah, it is simple, but
that again gives you that freedom sometimes when it's a simple miniature to actually give it your own artistic flair. So I probably over-accentualized the.
What did he say?
So I probably over-accentualized the highlights on the shoulder, but I really like doing that.
It makes it more effective on a simple, basic bit of uniform. Yeah.
It was a really fun miniature to paint. One day, I wouldn't mind potentially auctioning him or raffling him in some way, and see if we can raise some money for a
charity thing.
For one of Tom's charities. Cool. I think that could be a really fun thing to do with him.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Maybe we could do it for the fund for finding boulders for dramatic miniatures to put their feet on.
I think we could.
Yeah, it seems to be quite important.
I'll even replace that leaf which you've removed as well.
Oh, wow.
If we do auction him.
Wow.
So.
That's going above and beyond.
Isn't it?
All right, so we're down to 2 to go. Which one do you want to do?
Let's do the Purple Marine. So this is the only Primaris Space Marine which I have painted. So for those who are not familiar, a Primaris Space Marine is the new style Space Marine for Warhammer 40,000.
Do you want to get into the fluff? Because I'm curious to hear all the details.
I don't want to get into the
Primaris
fluff.
Space Marines.
I've tried to avoid getting too much into this one, I'll be completely honest. I'm a bit of an old school Warhammer player, if and when I do play, which is increasingly frequently these days.
Yeah, why are they taller though? Why are they so much bigger?
Because they've eaten more spinach. I have no idea.
Okay, cool, good stuff.
Having painted a few of the old styles and old scale Space Marines, they are more enjoyable to paint. They are a great scale to work on. I didn't quite put as much effort onto the bar as the front.
Okay, yeah, that's a bit of a trademark of you.
It is a bit of a trademark for me. This comes from when photos and pieces were primarily for photography, where you only have to paint one side.
You're in good company. Yeah. I've seen some original like Mike McVeigh Eldar from back in the day. The backs are completely blank.
Well, there you go.
The fronts look real good.
The fronts are great, and I'm hoping you think the front on this one was really intriguing.
So is this is a chapter of your own design?
So this was a chapter of my own design. It does not have a name, But I worked with some purple paints, which this was the first time I got to work with, from a company called Warcolors, which is a really interesting company. The paints they produce are almost gel-like as opposed to water-based. And they are fantastic for blending and getting really good kind of blended smooth effects. So if you look on the shoulder here, hopefully that will show up on the camera. I really enjoyed creating that effect on the glazing, and it's so easy with these paints. They don't produce tide marks, so you can throw it on there and you produce really quite effective advanced techniques, much easier than you can with more traditional acrylic paints.
Yeah, I mean, you've done some interesting stuff with this. You've got, rather than just edge highlights, obviously you've done a global light, but you've even brought yellow in, so it's as if like the sun's reflecting. Was that the intent?
Yeah, it was very much so. And one of the things I like to do with miniatures is to have at least one source of light onto the miniature, sometimes two sources as well.
Yeah.
It just gives it a bit more dynamic appearance, and it catches your eye, and it just looks a bit more interesting. The approach that I took with these actually was, it's a technique called copy basing, which if you've ever come across, it's a strange name, but basically it means you stipple on your highlights really quickly.
Okay.
And then once you've got your highlights and texturing done, you then glaze it down. It's a much quicker way than traditional way of making smooth blends, where you make thin glazes and keep highlighting and highlighting and highlighting, which takes hours. You know yourself, it can take a
No,
long
I
while.
don't. I don't have I don't have the patience. I just put
Fair
a
enough,
quick splotch on, and
you
then
will
I'm
probably
happy.
enjoy the copy basing approach then, and you produce really wonderful highlights much quicker.
Yeah.
It was kind of pushed by a bunch of Spanish artists.
There's no surprise there. It
Yeah.
was going to be Spanish or French.
It's Spanish or
right?
French, isn't it, these days?
It's probably based on some classical painting techniques and.
Yeah, so it's a really wonderful technique, and if you're ever trying to get into more display level painting, it's definitely something worth checking out.
Okay, maybe that's something we need to talk about more in the future. Maybe you can do a video on it and show
I think
it
that'd be
off.
really interesting. Yeah, I'd be up for that.
Okay,
Brilliant.
Cool.
Okay, so this is the final miniature which we're going to talk about for today, and this is my one and only competition piece which I've entered, and this was the 2019 Golden Demon. It's a Warhammer Quest miniature, if I believe.
Yeah.
It's the Dark Oath Chieftain, which is one hell of a name. And
It's one hell of a model. It's a really cool model.
Absolutely stunning miniature. In hindsight, I probably should not have painted this miniature in order to enter a painting competition, as I then discovered, after I'd started it, that Marc, is it Masklans?
Oh yes, Marc Masklans.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, fairly high level painter.
He's an incredible painter. He did enter this miniature to the Golden Demon the year before, and he won it with this miniature.
Okay, yeah.
So it was.
So you didn't do your research.
I didn't do my research.
You didn't find the easy win, but it was more for the experience.
It was for the experience, and actually, I wasn't 100% about entering anyway. I was enjoying painting this. I spent, admittedly, months painting the front.
Right.
The back, I spent 2 days painting, and if not less. I wasn't going to enter it that year. I was thinking about doing it the following year, which
It's a good job you didn't wait then.
It's
really,
a good job I
isn't
didn't
it?
wait, given COVID. So it was one of my good friends convinced me to just paint it and enter it,
Sure.
which.
It's sometimes just good getting a project finished and
It is.
ticked off and move on to the next one.
I'd probably still be painting it now if he'd not forced me to. So
Yeah.
I'm actually quite pleased that he went do it. I finaled anyway.
You made a
so,
finalist pin.
Yep.
So
I think the base itself I would probably do more on now as well.
maybe, yeah.
And at the time it was more elaborate. Some of the leaves and some of the sticks have broken off.
Yeah, they don't look particularly resilient.
No, it was actually quite daunting taking that down to the competition. These are actually roots which I dug up from the garden and dried.
Yeah.
So they were quite flimsy. There was more leaves on it initially as well, which are actually, as you can see on here, these are actual leaves which I cut out using a stamp and then stuck on position. There's far more leaves on there.
Right. So it's taken a bit of
it's taken a bit of a
bit
battering.
of damage.
And even the glow effect on here as well. That was a last minute addition as well.
Right.
Which, in hindsight, I either would have avoided
Or done better
or
with
spent more time on there. Yeah. I think for the competition I should have probably avoided it, but I really wanted a pop of colour. I went for a really natural palette on the miniature itself. Because I think that suits the miniature. He's not wearing anything which is elaborate in the sense of, he's not wearing any gold armour of that nature or anything. He's just a warrior through and through.
Yeah.
So I just thought, you know what, I need a pop of colour on there. Hence why I went for this small little bit of green. So that was made from green stuff as well, the small bit of flame on there. I'm really pleased I went for the leopard print. That
I barely noticed that, actually. It's very teeny tiny.
I painted that with a cocktail stick.
Oh, yes.
To get a kind of more textured effect on there.
Yeah.
And that took an age to do, obviously, because
You've been scared a little bit.
Paint dries incredibly quickly on a cocktail stick as well, even with a fluid retarder.
Right.
So yeah, that was a challenge, but I'm really pleased I did it. It made it stand out from the other variants of this one, which have been done as well, which have kept it as kind of a clean colour or either red, brown, that kind of thing. But yeah, ultimately, I just wish I'd painted the back better. It's simple as that. I wish I spent more time on him.
Well, less time on the front and more time on the back. Maybe you just need to project manage
just
your
more
painting
time.
a little bit more.
Yeah, just more time on the back. And entered him probably this year. I think it's the first one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think we need to get you to do some leopard stuff on. We'll maybe get you some cool, extravagant gladiators.
I think we could
would
do
look
that.
cool
That'd
with
be
some leopard.
really cool. I have just put together a lion pelt tutorial, so that one will be. Have we decided how that one's going to be presented?
No, that's months ahead.
Is it months ahead?
Yeah, we haven't thought about that. Spoiler alert. But yeah, okay. So of all these figures, you've now been adding to your painted output. So. Stay tuned to...
I have now painted more than 5 miniatures.
Yeah, more than 5 miniatures. So stay tuned to Marc's Miniature Monday. Tell us what you want to see in this as well. Do you want more painting advice? Do you want more just looking at the figures? Because this is new for us and we're still trying to learn.
Yeah. So remember to click and subscribe.
This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.